So the end of the year is slowly approaching, and that is the best time to do what I'm about to tell you. It takes you maybe half an hour to do so, but it can change the trajectory of your life. Nope, I'm not exaggerating. Let me tell you what it did for me. As you might already know, I started to save and invest over a decade ago. So in a way you could say that I wanted to build wealth even back then, so I knew that already. But to be honest with you, back then I started to save and invest because I knew it was important, because I was taught that it is important if you want to build wealth. But now that I look back, there wasn't something specific that intrinsically motivated me. But then I watched an online course. Now I don't exactly remember which one it was, but it was probably by my first money coach, Bodo Schäfer. And what I did there for the very first time was a reflection, a financial reflection, but by painting a bigger picture, like not just asking yourself, okay, how much do I save this month? But big questions like, okay, what do I actually want in life? How do I want to live? How much money will I need to do that? What am I already doing now to get there? So the exercise was to ask yourself a bunch of different questions, and I swear it wasn't until then that I realized what I actually wanted. And then once I knew what my actual goal was and also what I was doing at the time, it was then that I started to go full speed towards what I wanted. And ever since I'm doing those reflections, I can first of all see my achievements, because so often we do certain things but then we never actually check of how far we've gotten, right? So a reflection like this really can show you the actual results. I get clearer in my goals, which means I know exactly what goal to set next in order to achieve my greater vision. And as a consequence of that, my wealth started to grow much, much faster. And so a financial reflection like that can give you a clear picture of what you actually want. It also allows you to align what you're doing with where you want to go. Because when I think of my situation back then, I was saving and investing. It was little amounts. I was doing it because I knew it was important, but it was like wandering around, it was doing it almost like half-heartedly, if you will. So yes, a reflection can align your actions with where you want to go. And in case you don't have any actions yet, then it can even get you started on those actions. And I had to think of a story just now where I was talking to a guy recently, and he asked me what I was doing, and I told him I'm, in personal finance, and that one of my goals is to show people how to retire a millionaire or get to at least 1 million at retirement age or something like that. And then what he said, yeah, well, but 1 million is not even enough to retire these days. And I found that, okay, slightly annoying, but also amusing, because here's the plot twist. This guy wasn't even saving and investing yet. And so when you think about this, the irony is that someone knows that he actually needs more than 1 million to retire comfortably and hasn't even started now, 20 or 30 years earlier. How does he expect to ever get there? But if that's you also, you can actually use that as a starting point. Because maybe if you had the realization this year that, oh my God, 1 million will not be enough to retire comfortably, then you now already know that you want more. And that is a good thing, because it's way easier to steer the ship now compared to 2 or 5 years before retirement. And then questions I also like to ask myself during a financial reflection. You can do that anytime, by the way, but I just feel like the end of the year is a good time to reflect about the past 12 months and then to also think about what you want to do next year. And then the questions I usually start with is, okay, what actually happened in the past 12 months? And I don't just narrow this down to money, but to all the areas in my life. But you can also, especially if it's a financial reflection, do this just with money, with the money part. But when you think about the major events that happened in your life in the past 12 months, then it might be easier to also come up with what happened financially, or maybe where you want to go next financially. And then I ask myself, okay, what were my achievements? So what went well financially in the past 12 months? And then also what didn't go well financially? Were there maybe any goals that I didn't hit yet? If so, why did I not hit them? Were there any mistakes that I made last year where I can learn from? And a fun question is also to rate your financial well-being at the time on a scale from 1 to 10. And this is especially nice to see when you do this more than once, because then you can see the progress over the years. And what most of the time I realize when I go through this reflection is something like, oh, that's not even that bad. Or hey, something good happened this year. I don't know about you, but I rather tend to see what was not working instead of what wasn't working, because I'm so goal oriented. And then when I'm still so far away from my actual goal, this kind of feels like a failure. But then when I really force myself to become aware of my progress, then I'm happy that I made progress. And even if there was not, so if there wasn't any progress, I also had years where there wasn't any progress, or at least not in the way that I hoped it would. I want you to see this as an opportunity to find the actions that you can take in order to make progress the next year. And especially if you set a goal and you haven't reached it, which happens to me all the time, because I tend to set ambitious goals for myself. If you don't hit the deadline, that's absolutely no problem, because, and I just learned that recently, I read it in a book from Brian Tracy, there are no unreasonable goals. There are only unreasonable deadlines. And what I have found now that I've been doing this for a couple of years is that maybe you don't hit your goal in 1 year, and maybe also not in the second year, maybe not even in the third year, but at some point you will see that you progressed towards your goal, even if you missed it by a couple of years, or depending on your goal, a couple of months or a couple of weeks. So the purpose of the financial reflection is not to make you feel bad. The opposite actually is the case. It's to make you feel better about what you're already doing, and to give you the opportunity to align the actions that you take so that you can work more efficiently towards your goals. By the way, for this exact purpose, I created a blueprint, a financial reflection blueprint that has all the questions that we just talked about and more. So if you're ready to reflecting on the past year or your financial situation in general, then you can use mine. You'll find a link down in the video description. Bonus tip, when you do this, make it almost like a ritual. So really carve out some time for yourself and make it almost like a little celebration, like light a candle, put on some music, your favorite music, or make yourself a cup of tea. So in other words, make yourself really comfortable and take the time so you can start thinking about the answers to all the questions. All right, now I wish you happy reflecting. Let me know what happens for you, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.